about the future of the NFL this week in Indianapolis for the NFL Combine. It's currently happening. I think kickers and punters are going today. Things will continue to heat up as the week continues, but we have somebody who has experience in the NFL, in college football. So I just want to ask, overall, there's been a lot of changes with the NFL Combine. We're starting to see fewer and fewer players participate. There's a lot of reasons for that, but I wonder how much is this new and elongated calendar and the long college football season that we're seeing impacting the participation?
Well, the participation is probably going to go down further just because these young guys aren't getting time off. You roll back the schedule from last year, they've just been going from winter workouts, right from winter workouts, you go into spring ball. Then you go into the summer workouts. Then from summer workouts, you go into fall camp. From fall camp, you go into the long season that just ended a month ago. Yeah. Then some of these guys are participating in the Senior Bowl or post-graduate All-Star games, East-West Shrine Game Senior Bowl. Then you get right back into preparing for the Combine. So at one point, when do you get time for your body to rest and recover to get back? And some guys are getting surgery and can't perform at the Combine.
Yeah, and that is an extreme privilege to be able to not have to combine or be at the Combine. So for the rest of the players who are lucky enough to get that invite and who are participating, what's your advice for them to how to make this week count?
Understand there's a few things that I would give you advice for, and it's real simple. Medical. This is the most important part for you to be healthy and ready to go. But the most important thing that I would always tell young players to do, the interviewing process, be truthful, forthcoming. Don't try to hide, because most of the time when the scouts are asking that question, they already have the answer to it. So answer the question the way that you know you're supposed to. Tell the truth. Make sure the interviewing process goes smoothly. And the interview process is just not with the scouts. It's also when you're in the entire Combine setting, from when you interview with the general manager to when you go on the field to do activities. How well do you take instructions? And if you do make a mistake, how well do you come back from that? That's an important part of can and is he coachable? And for the lower tier guys, FCS, Group of 5, this is your opportunity to go out and compete against the big boys that was in the Group of 4 that figured that you were as good as they are, but you have a level playing field to go out and show your stuff. Run fast, jump high, lift as much weight as you possibly can, but always interview well. That's the most important thing with this Combine for me that I always took away from it.
Yeah, I know as viewers we love to see the 40-yard dash, but ultimately there's a lot of other important things that are happening that week, and we are excited to welcome in Josh Edwards, who is at the Combine in Indianapolis and covers the NFL draft for CBS Sports. Josh, we're bringing you on because we want to look into the future. We're going to predict some scouting Combine headlines, so what you think we will be talking about next week. Your first one here is that trade talks will intensify for Miami quarterback Cam Ward. Why do you see this, Josh, as a headline coming out of Indianapolis this week?
Yeah, first of all, I don't have a cool background like Colin this week, unfortunately. I've just got the plain walls of the Indiana Convention Center. But I think that Tennessee, in their heart of hearts, wants to add a veteran quarterback this offseason. I think Brian Callahan wants somebody that has more experience. It's going to be able to throw with anticipation and timing, and I don't think he's going to be able to find that in this year's draft. He's going to want somebody that's a little bit more seasoned. So for that reason, I think that they're going to be hearing and fielding calls from the likes of the Giants, the Raiders, possibly even the Browns there at number 2 overall if they feel a strong conviction for Cam Ward as the top quarterback in this class.
Yeah, you know what? When you don't have a franchise quarterback in that overall position, you're in a great position to now get out of there and get the best player. And when you get the best player, you want somebody that's going to affect that quarterback. So Abdul Carter somewhere in there, if you can't find the proper trade value that you're looking for, I'm always going to say take the best guy, get it done, move on, get that veteran quarterback, and look at next year's crop of quarterbacks. And if that's where your franchise quarterback is, get that guy and move on.
Could be a corner/wide receiver who could go pretty high as well. And Travis Hunter, we know the number 1 and number 2 teams right now currently disagree on what position he's going to play. So that's going to be interesting. I know we'll talk about that, but we're going to dig a little bit deeper here. Smoke, your headline is, this is the deepest running back class in NFL history. How so?
No doubt about it. If you go from top to bottom of this class, you have players that can line up and become day one starters in the NFL and produce at a high level. Without a doubt. In the last few years, you've always saw 5 or 4 guys that was top heavy, and they were first-round grades. But I have several guys that could be first-round graded players and can start for you with tremendous impact in terms of elusiveness, power, ability to show up in the pass game. So you can go from round 1 to 3, even 4, and sometimes I look at even the 5th round with this deep class, and you can get you a franchise-level player, not a franchise-level generational talent, but a player that can come in and produce for you at a high clip.
Yeah, I love the fact that you brought up the running back, Smoke, because I was asked today on CBS Sports Network what group I was most excited to see beyond the defensive linemen. And my answer was the running back, because I think it's just going to be one talented running back after another here at the NFL Combine. I think it's a really good environment to get those competitive juices flowing, because you're going to talk about guys that could potentially get into the first round, but the depth in this class is incredible. So you're talking about, guys that could potentially go in the first round, like Caleb Johnson, like Amarion Hampton, like Ashton Genty, but the depth goes well beyond that with Travion Henderson and a lot of the names that we're seeing here. So I'm excited to see all of them on the same field together. Hopefully the competitive juices get flowing, and these times from the running backs this week.
Yeah, a guy that I want to touch on is Amarion Hampton. Size running back, 6 foot 220. Powerful, can do it inside, is a powerful runner, but has the speed and agility to capture the outside, but has enough in him in terms of speed to score, and is has reliable hands in the passing game. Is a willing pass blocker. Next I want to touch on is Travion Henderson. He looked in the national championship game. He caught a screen and took it the distance. He reminds me a lot of Alvin Kamara in terms of his ability to create in space, but has enough contact balance in terms of being a compact runner to run in between the tackles, but shifty enough to put one foot in the ground, get vertical, and score, because he does have close to 4.4, even 4.3 speed. And we'd like to see that when he does test, see what he comes out with.
All I'm hearing is the year of the running back is going to continue. It has been a resurgence for that position as of late. Sounds like we'll continue to see that in the NFL with a new crop coming in. Josh, your next headline is Texas A&M defensive lineman Shemar Stewart will be pushing into the top 10. You are in Indianapolis now, so what are you hearing? What makes him worthy of a potential top draft pick?
Yeah, to set the stage, first of all, he's 6'6", 290 pounds. He played on the edge at Texas A&M, but he has that size that would allow him to play inside at the next level, dependent upon the situation. So that positional flexibility is going to be incredibly valuable for teams. And I expect him to test off the charts here in Indianapolis, similar to what we saw from Trayvon Walker a couple of years ago. Kind of a raw, unfinished product in terms of the production. But when you're looking at the size, the athleticism, the weight, the speed, everything, he checks all of those boxes. So in a draft class that I think is kind of lacking those true blue chip talents at the top, I think a guy like Stewart stands a great opportunity to rise because of what he can do here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, Shimon is something that's so different that when you go into the draft and you see somebody like that, he's not truly a clean prospect of being considered, to me right now, in terms of being in the top 10. But when you see an explosive first-step athlete with the ability to bend, close, and get to the quarterback. Now, production didn't say that in college, but he was truly affecting the passing game, making that guy move. So something that he has to change and kind of clean up, his ability to finish in terms of getting to the passer. But in terms of athleticism, explosiveness, having the ability to create pressure on the quarterback with power and speed, yeah, he's right up there with the rest of the Abdul Carters in the world, but not necessarily saying he's completely finished, because those guys are a little bit more cleaner than he is at the defensive line.
Sounds like the type of prospect that will thrive in this environment. Our last headline, Smoke, you say that this is the draft to rebuild your offensive line. Why is that?
Listen, if you want an offensive line to be rebuilt and replenished in the NFL right now, this class is bottom line ready for day one plug-and-play players. From Will Campbell, Will Campbell that played at LSU, Calvin
Benjamin.
Banks from Texas,
yes.
left tackle. Mm-hmm. Tyler Booker, guarded from Alabama. Those guys are day one starters that can go in, provide protection for your quarterback, but also has nastiness and physical explosiveness in the run game to create holes for running backs that we just talked about, but recreate that line of scrimmage and dominate truly of what we're seeing in the NFL, a la what the Philadelphia Eagles did with 2 bookend tackles to make sure that that quarterback don't get touched, but also your running back has clean holes to get to that second level and score.
I love it. Josh, thank you so much. I just want to say I do not mind the background because we got the great info from you, which is all we're looking for. And we appreciate you, and we'll continue to follow your work in Indianapolis. Our guys, Cooper Patagnan and Andrew Ivins, tell us the guys they're most looking forward to seeing this week at the Combine.
The NFL Combine is off and running as on-field workouts will take place on Thursday as the stars of tomorrow have the biggest job interview of their life. And Andrew Ivins, I got to start with you, the director of scouting and the guy that is the author of the Freaks List. What are you looking forward to the most this week in Indy?
How about the number one freak from the class of 2022, Malachi Starks? I'm really interested to see what he looks like on the turf field. This is a guy that, early on in the draft process, a lot of mock drafts had him really high up the board. He's kind of trended back. I think he's going to test off the charts there in Indy, and that's because of the athletic profile. We're talking about a guy that won a state title in the long jump as a junior, a guy that was power cleaning 315 pounds like it was routine when he was in high school, two-way player. He did a little bit of everything at Georgia. I think this is a guy that's going to run well. I think he's going to jump well. So he's one. And then how about another five-star from Georgia, Mykel Williams, has had some injuries throughout his career. Another one where he's kind of falling in those draft boards. But Cooper, remember, this is a guy that dominated the All-American Bowl a few years ago. He was the best guy all week in practices. He made it where the offense couldn't run plays at times. And you dig into his data coming out of high school, 9'3" in the broad jump, 30-inch vertical jump. I think he's going to turn some heads once that on-field work starts there in Indy.
A lot of Georgia buzz in Indianapolis. You talk about those two players, those guys, Malachi Starks and Mykel Williams, been producing all throughout their career in Athens. I'm gonna stick in the SEC, but I'm gonna go to Tuscaloosa in Alabama with Jahad Campbell, and a guy that we loved coming out of the Northeast, out of high school, made his way to IMG Academy, Drew. And you talk about a freak, 6'3", 211, a guy that ran in the low 4.5s. He had a 4.2 shuttle as well, and a guy that's got 34-inch arms, 10-inch hands. And Drew, we thought he was going to be an edge coming out of high school. He mainly played off-ball linebacker. So what's that going to look like at the next level? Swiss Army knife, can do a lot of different things. I still think he's got some growth in his game. And then the other guy, Drew, a guy that was wreaking havoc all throughout the year in the SEC. How about Jalen Walker, another Georgia Bulldog, a guy that also has some on and off ball versatility, but as his career has progressed, we've seen him more off the edge, and a guy that had a prolific basketball career coming out of the state of North Carolina in high school. So a guy that I think is going to test exceptionally well. I would take a look at all four of those guys in the SEC to have big weeks in Indianapolis. Drew, the other thing I want to ask you, because all the conversation surrounds it every single year in Indy, who's going to run the lowest 40-yard dash this year?
Coop, I love this question. I think it's going to be a defensive back. That cornerback position, that's where the 40-yard dash is still king. I think Darian Porter out of Iowa State, he's a guy to keep an eye on. You dig into what he did back in high school, two-time state champ there in the state of Iowa. He went 46.99 in the 400-meter dash, one of the best times in the country for his age. Coop, some inside baseball here. He's training down in Fort Lauderdale at XPE Sports. Those guys have had some of the fastest 40-yard dash times in recent years. So I think Darian Porter's the DB I'm watching. And then how about Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver out of Texas, as a junior state champ there in Georgia in the 100 and 200-meter dashes. He's a guy that can fly. We've seen it in the past. I'm expecting him to go super low.
All right, you want more Coop and Andrew Ivins? Well, I've got good news for you. You can check them out on the 105 podcast. It's every Wednesday. You can listen wherever you find your podcasts.